Boker Tov, Yom Tov, Zarim, Tovim, and Laila Tov. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, and good evening, no matter where you're at. This is Carrie. Decided to go live today with Steve Conover instead of just doing a pre-recorded session. And we have been discussing the idea of doing a weekly podcast called Lost in Translation. So, for those of you that might be interested in seeing more of what has gone on with the scriptures from the English narrative that was presented to us versus what the Hebrew and Aramaic are sharing with us, let us know what you think. You can either, place this in the chat room and let us know, or if you're watching this afterwards, please let us know in the comment section of what your thoughts are if this is something that you would like to see done on a weekly basis. I'm even having ideas of potentially us addressing particular verses that you might be interested in. I recently did a Facebook post regarding the Gadarene and what the swine are and why Yeshua cast him into the swine and they drowned themselves. And it was quite revealing. So if you are not on my Facebook page, please pull it up. It's Carrie Husband. And let me know what your thoughts are about that. I just posted it on Sunday. It was very, very illuminating. At least it was for me. I was not, I guess I wasn't expecting to see what I saw. So anyway, Daryl, I see that. Thank you very much, sir. This is something I would like to definitely do. And at some point, it would be fun to have both you and Steve on simultaneously, although we all have a lot to say and we get very excited about the languages. So, any rate, I did want to share before Steve gets on here because he went to go grab a cup of coffee. We were going to do this as a pre-recorded Zoom session, but because I am feeling better and I got over my 2-week crud, which was absolutely just took me back because I haven't been sick in a decade. I'm like, wow, I take for granted how well I feel, what it's like every day to feel great. So anyway, I wanted to do a live stream so that I could connect with you guys in that fashion and form. I do want to share with you guys something that I did post. Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Megan. I did want to share with you guys. Good morning, Brandon. A word that is very important for us to keep in mind that you do not see. You wouldn't see what it's saying in the English. It is a word that is translated as because. And if you read my Facebook post, you will know that this is a pretty amazing word. In English, we would just glance by it. This word, because, also has a meaning to it that means a parable. So when the translators would put the word because in, they would not put in the word. This is a parable here, folks. And when we take these translated works literally and become literalists, we miss everything. And then what happens is we begin to make stories as if they were real. So we can make egregors out of them as thought forms when the entire works is about us. It is about our maturation. It is about our ascension. It is about going within and being able to grow ourselves up through the masculine and the feminine divine principles. Again, as many people have been speaking about, we're not talking about your body because we are not our body. It is the vehicle that we use to experience the matrix that we live in through 5 senses. Anyway, so the word because, looks like Steve's here, I'll bring him in. The word because is mem tet lamed. And like I said, it means not just because, it means parable. So when you look at the word because, it's mem lamed that has a tet on the inside. And mem lamed is the Aramaic word for word. Not in its miltha form, which Steve and I have discussed, but in its in its smallest form. I don't even know. It is so hard to share some of these Aramaic words, isn't it, Steve? It's like, oh my gosh, how do I translate this? But
Well, maybe it's masculine and Milt is feminine.
you know what? That's really good. I love that actually, because the Tav Aleph, Miltha, making it feminine, Mem Lamed being masculine. So these parables are in a masculine form, and it has a tet. It has a tet. And I love this because it has a tet right in the middle of it, which is smack dab dealing with your heart on the inside. And it's saying, you are going to wrestle with this if you look at it through the masculine only. Oh, you're brilliant, Steve. See right there, right there. And like other people would say, boom.
That's what we do.
Oh, you just popped back off. I'm hoping you're going to come back on. So hopefully you guys got that. So to connect dots, if you haven't listened to the interviews before with Steve, I would suggest going back. Even the one I've had with Daryl, there's one that's coming out that I will be releasing as a premiere on Saturday. That is really, I was emotional. Can you believe that? I was emotional. Anyway, so the what is going to be shared. Okay, so we're going to get back to this, Steve, and then we're going to continue moving on, because I know that Spirit has much that is being brewing and percolating within you, and I want to have a conversation about. I was just sharing that on Saturday I'm going to release a premiere of a conversation I had with Daryl. And I think it's interesting because I was listening this morning to your conversation you had with Brandon, by the way, yesterday. That was just awesome. I love hearing your story and how your life was changed and transformed, Steve. And I loved hearing what Brandon had to say. And the fact that you guys are addressing this feeling to healing is very important. So I'm not going to have us go there. That is what Brandon is doing. And I totally agree that we need to have these discussions. I will be discussing or having a conversation with him shortly about that too, as he's asked me to be on as a guest. But anyway, what I wanted to say was that what we're going to be talking about on Saturday is something that the two of you discussed about your Gospel Ranger channel being the title changing to the Gnostic
Rangers.
Yeah, because this is something that I have never gone into. And I'm hearing more and more about the Gnostic texts, and Daryl flippin' blew my mind the last time we chat. And there were so many dot connections that the tears just kept flowing. I mean, like I said, this was probably, I've had some emotional conversations with you and with Daryl and with Doug and with Brent. I mean, I've had these emotional conversations. The one I had with Candra was over the top too, pretty raw and transparent. But this one had so much dot connecting in it that I'm still speechless. I mean, I really can't even wrap my mind about everything that was connected, because I felt it all within my heart, which is good. Let's bypass that ego that will take these narratives and make them something they aren't. Anyway, so I segued on that, but I love what you just said. So let's get back, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, and we're going to just have an awesome discussion today. So the word because being a parable, being the masculine form of word as mel with the tet in the middle, means you're going to wrestle with it without having the divine feminine to help assist you with these things. And that is exactly, as I can see, the reason why Yeshua or Yeshu or Isu or however you want to say his name, it was written that he spoke in parables, because he was trying to get them to connect into the divine feminine.
Well, and this also leads into a conversation about how important the subject of initiation is. And see, he didn't just teach in parables, he spoke in parables.
Yes.
So that he could determine who the initiates were.
That's so good.
Because if you remember, when he fed the 5,000, and he spoke a parable, and then he basically said, if you get it, you get it. And he walked up the mountain, and only a few followed him. That's why
right.
he spoke in parables.
Yeah, so it's its own sorting process.
Well, it identifies who is worshiping in the pure masculine sense and who has accessed the feminine, unseen, spiritual realm as reality. Because you
By the
can't
way,
follow Christ.
that really hit me when I was listening to your discussion with Brandon. I always talk about the inside, because I see the letter bet and I see the Dalet means going inside. And for some reason, I don't know why I didn't dot connect this before. That when you go on the inside, it is the unseen realm.
Yep.
Hello, Carrie. My gosh, girl. It was just a little tweak, just a little like that, the glimmer of the diamond just shifting just slightly to that other fractal side that just shot forth light within me. And I was like, I get it now. I get it. That spiritual realm that is accessed through the third eye and the heart that are working together is what is real.
And it's also where coherence happens. So it's all these things
Exactly.
coming together there, which is why that Aubrey Marcus documentary about spending a week in darkness, that's a great, it's weird because it's a masculine projection of a very feminine thing. You don't have to do that. You don't have to lock yourself in a room for a week.
But for some people, they kind
You
of
do.
need that crash course, right?
Right. So that's what that was.
Yeah.
That was a crash course in worshiping the unseen spiritual realm as reality.
Ooh,
And
I
when he
feel it,
came,
man. I'm
woo,
just feeling that documentary. As soon as you brought it up, I was like, oh my gosh, there was so much rawness in the explanation of what was going on, like day 5, day 6, day 7, and to see what the dark night week of the soul was in
mhm.
accessing that realm. And
And
then the appreciation for let there be light.
yes,
Oh my gosh. So if you guys have not watched this documentary, I know that Steve posted it. I think he sent it to me, he sent it to a bunch of people. I actually posted it on the Facebook page. I suggest that you go find it. It's called Enter the Darkness, isn't it? Isn't that
yeah,
the name of it?
just Google Aubrey Marcus
Yes.
and darkness, and it'll come up.
Woo! If you guys haven't seen it, you need to, because this is really like the crux of what we've been talking about with the divine feminine and things that I've even talked about with Doug Wentz with the dark mother and the
Mhm.
purpose of what Lilith is doing, waiting for us to meet her in the darkness so she can bring the light to us. Anyway,
She, she's ready. But my favorite part of that whole documentary, he actually said it in the beginning, and he said it at the end, is that at the end of the book, so to speak, what he got out of the whole deal is I love what is.
that was so amazing. Oh my gosh. And the way he did it with the documentary too, when he was flashing all of these pictures that could have, that we put judgments to, all on that
Mm-hmm.
external narrative, whether it's war or famine or just anything. It didn't matter what it was just like these random pictures. And that was the heart of the matter right there. And I was like, oh my gosh, he couldn't have said it any more beautifully than that.
Yeah, I love what is
What
because
is?
uh, I ended up. I tried to go do a live stream this morning about the divine feminine, and somebody's not wanting it to happen. So I did a recording, and I'm gonna have to do a premiere on that. But at the end of the day, this great truth comes out of that: that if you cannot see Allah, God, the one and only being, in everything, if you can't love what is without attachment and judgment, then you can't see God in anything.
That is so right.
And that's what he learned through that whole experience.
Yep.
I love what
Yep.
is.
I love
I
what
just
is.
love what is because everything is given you. Ooh, this is taking me back, but Everything is given you. Everything is given you by Mother in this incarnation so that you can learn that. Everything is given you. All the contrast that you're given is to teach you how to love what is. And if you keep resisting it, as A Course in Miracles says, that's the cause of all psychological suffering, is resisting what is. Loving what is will bring you into what the Bible calls the kingdom of God.
That's right.
That is the portal. That's the
right.
narrow gate. Loving what is.
That's right. And it's a huge paradigm shift because we have been taught and reared to judge everything and to file it as good and evil.
That's the masculine. Yeah. So if it always makes me back up to Genesis 2 and 3, where the Adama was put into a deep sleep and the feminine was removed, and I don't know this word, but I know it's an important word, from his side, from his rib, from the side or rib of humanity. The feminine was removed, subjugated,
I can actually, yeah, exactly. Demonized.
And so that we could have third density consciousness.
Yep.
So that we could have the experience of this last 75,000 years of crap. How
do you really feel about that?
Yeah, like Revelation says, if that time wasn't shortened, nobody would make it.
That's right.
It is what it is.
If you go into the law of one material, it said it was intentional. Mm-hmm. That this time that we've been in was full of pain and suffering because of such a great catalyst.
Right, because we wouldn't have ever made the choice of service to self or service to others, walking around in the garden with no catalyst, with no contrast.
Exactly. I mean, well, so you think about fourth density, right? You take a look at fourth density, and fourth density, though the way it's described to us, it is living from the place of the heart chakra, that our flesh is actually going to be made something completely new. And we're living from the heart chakra, which is, for most of us, we have understood that to be what heaven would be like, and making, a heavenly earth. But our physical nature, the density of our body is changing. Uh-huh. So like, even when I look at the verses in Hebrew and Aramaic, and I see the noon as being risen, and it's not in its fallen state, especially when it's on the suffix side, dealing with Father and the divine feminine, is letting us know that is all about healing the heart chakra. And when that is healed and made whole, it changes our physical structure through our DNA, and we become a new creation. It's so mind-blowing. If people could, I imagine how amazing it would be if some of these things could have actually been taught from the pulpit. But I know there was an agenda as to why they were not. Because just like we talked about in the beginning, parables, sorting out. And now when I looked up at the word swine 2 days ago to see these thought forms, because that compounded word for swine, it blew me away. Herd of cattle. Okay, so they put a word that was a herd of cattle. It literally means herd of cattle. And then they put swine. I'm like, what's going on here? Until I saw it was a compounded word. Uh-huh. And it is a vision that you see that causes you to fear. And this vision is like an internal thing. It's not external. It's something that you create and then gets brought out as a thought form egregor. Yep. Freaking blew my mind when I saw that. I was like, oh my gosh, it's right here. I've heard people talk about our thought forms as egregors, creating and manifesting, but I finally saw it. I finally found a verse that brought that up. And so,
and
go ahead.
And for all of the Christians out there that are watching this that have never gotten the answer to this question, why were there Jewish pig farmers?
Right.
I mean, explain that one to me. Why would there be a Jewish pig farmer? That just makes no sense whatsoever.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And you know, we've had people that have said, or they've said, you know, it was the livelihood for where they were at, and blah 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 blah. But
No,
again,
no.
literally taking the Bible as a literalist, you are never
Yep.
going to see these deeper concepts. So, just by the way, I did pull up that word rib. If you want to see it,
Yeah,
you know, it's my favorite thing to do.
I do. I, I love the words too, but I just use them as a high dive, jump
I
off.
know you do. I know you do. Let me get us to the page so that it's not doing the screen. There we go. So, first of all, what I think is pretty amazing when I look at this right here, we've got Yod He Vav He, which I was sharing the other day on a Facebook post, which is not Yeldabaoth. It isn't. It is Yod He Mother, Vav He Father, that are of the Elohim, and we are the Elohim. I've already shared that in many of my teachings before. And look at this. It has the Aleph Tav, the
Yep.
first and the last, the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega connected to the rib. Now, this rib, man, I love the language. This rib has the added hay on the front of it. So this is the revelation that is coming from Mother. And I'm talking, this was being revealed as the divine masculine here to start out the process. Because the divine masculine is what is used to build. The divine feminine fills up what has been built.
Yeah, the masculine is the form, and the feminine
Yes,
is the substance behind the form.
exactly. So when we look at this, and look at this, this is so amazing. Do you see what is showing on here?
I know.
This word is feminine.
Yep.
This word is feminine. So, of course, it's the divine masculine that, you know, the form that is revealing the unseen of the feminine. I
Yep.
frippin' love this. Oh, I love this. So, this is a rib is curved, literally of the body of a door, leaf, hence a side, literally of a person, or figuratively, an object or the sky, architecturally, especially floor or ceiling, timber, or plank.
Well, there's the removing the timber from your eye.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to highlight that. So when we go and take a look at the letters, and then I'll get done sharing with this. Just this is my highlight of the day. It's showing the Zadi, which has to do with the journey. It's hunting and chasing for something. And it's the Zadi, spelled the Zadi Dalet Yod, is the door that is inside of you that is waiting for you to discover the power of the feminine. Because it is meant to teach you and instruct you so that you know, the purpose of the journey that you're on. Oh, that's what the rib is.
Yes. And that was removed from the Adama.
And Adama, so just to let you guys know, so Adam means at mankind. Adama is mankind that was made from the earth, but it's the revelation of the divine feminine that Adam, mankind, was supposed to carry to be one with the earth. You guys, you hear these terms, Mother Gaia, everything else, and understanding that we're one with all things, which is what we were talking about in the beginning. And it said that Adam was put in a tardime, a deep sleep and slumber, and the rib was taken out. And then it talks about, so Chava, the mother of all living, was removed from Adama, but it never said that he woke up.
But right, but also first, we're not done. But first, he was placed in a garden It's not garden. Pull that one up.
You want to see what Gan Eden looks like?
Yeah.
Garden of Eden.
It's a great idea of a masculine form of a garden, but that's not where the Adama was placed.
Let me see if I can find 2-4.
Because there's a lot of people that wonder when we got these meat suits, right? These third
Right.
density meat suits.
Right.
Let's see if the garden might have anything to do with that.
Give me just a second here while I'm pulling everything up here. I think it's interesting. Gan, Gimel Noon, just looking at Gan, I think it's interesting that that word is in the fallen flesh form.
Enclosure.
Yep, because it's the noon, which has to do with the seed of life, but it's not in its risen state.
Right. So when did we get our meat suits?
Let me pull it up here and see if I found the right verse.
Our third density meat suit specifically.
Okay, I may not be on the right one. Let me see here. Placeman, keep talking here while I'm doing this and share your thoughts on it.
Well, I think the scene played out in Genesis is played out all over the Bible. The transition from second to third density. I actually think the flood is about the transition of second to third density.
That would make sense. That would absolutely make sense because the animals came to the ark, right? And in second density, second density is we were all realizing that we were one unit, where third density was about our separateness. If I'm recalling that correctly.
Yes. That just like if you were to remove humans off the planet, and some people would do that right now, but if you were to remove all the humans from the planet and just watch what all the second density creatures do, that's what we were doing, and then replug us back in as second density Adama, we would fit into that ordered creation just how we were supposed to, without judgment, without, like I say, I used to say to people all the time, do you think the oak tree ever worries about whether it's going to produce acorns or not? or what that tree's doing over there, or whether that animal is doing what it's supposed to be doing, or any of that nonsense. That's humans, second density humans would have been just like an oak tree. And we would have been.
You know what? It's interesting that you said that. Do you know the Hebrew word for oak tree is ayil? It's Aleph Yod Lamed. It's the word God, Aleph Lamed, with a Yod right in the middle, which means having power within the center of the being, the spark of life, source creator, power within as God. That is and so it's called the ram. It's called anything that has strength, strong, and it means the oak tree as well.
Mighty oak.
The mighty oak. So those who are the strong leader teaching shepherds that have the staff of authority that have been given power on the inside.
Correct.
It's so beautiful. And, sometimes I had made a comment a long time ago that in our density that we live in, that the animals have it more correctly than we do because of the ego gets in the way.
Right.
I kind of got a little bit of backlash when I made that comment.
Well, they I know where the backlash comes from. The backlash comes from
I do too.
A pure third density egoic judgment of the way things are supposed to be, right? Like I said, is the oak tree ever worried about what the pine tree's doing?
Right. Never.
Does it ever say, man, I wish I could make pine cones? There's just, they don't, creation does what creation does. And that's exactly what we did in second density until the divine feminine discovered, they're never going to make the choice. So let's put them in a third density meat suit, an enclosure, a garden, supposedly. Put them in a deep sleep, remove the feminine so that we can create an expression of consciousness where they're going to have to make the choice eventually.
Yeah, exactly. I found that scripture. Let's go ahead and pull it up
Yeah.
and talk about it,
Yeah.
because it's fascinating when you see this stuff. Again, that's why it's so difficult if you're a Bible literalist and you want to look at it and take it just from the surface. You get confuddled. There's a lot that you lose in translation to not see what's really going on here. So
Yep.
here, let me go and share it. And let me pull it up. All right. First thing that I'm taking a look at here is in planet Yahweh God, right? So we have Yod He Vav He again. We don't have Yeldaboth, or however you say that masculine divinity. You have mother and father balanced here, Elohim.
Uh-huh.
And the word planted might just interesting. Hang with me here before we get to Garden of Eden. This word normally has a noon in it, but it got removed. The noon would have been in the place of the Yod here. And I know for some of you guys that don't know the letters, just listen to the concepts that Steve and I are bringing up. Don't get lost in the minutia of the letters. Just listen to the concepts. So with your heart and not with your head. So the noon was removed, and the noon is dealing with like a seed of life. It has to do with the mirror principle. It has to do with risen flesh, fallen flesh, spiritual path, material path. There is a lot that is being said. And the noon was removed. And when the letter noon is removed, it means it is a highly spiritual matter that is being discussed here. And I think it's funny because it means it has nothing to do with flesh. Yet we're going to see what happens. And it says that you're going to wrestle with it. Here's that beautiful tet. You're going to wrestle with this so you can see and know why you were planted by Yod He Vav He, Mother, Father, Elohim, a garden in Eden. Okay, you ready? Okay. So Gimel Noon it talks about, look at this. Oh my God.
Feminine enclosure.
Yeah, but it's a masculine with a feminine enclosure. I so love this. A garden as fenced. And then coming from the root, I always trace everything down to the root because it's like that lump of clay mold, potentiality of what was originally supposed to happen. And look at this: to cover, surround, and defend. And it has both noons here. I find this interesting because here's the mirror principle right here. One who is risen but sees things in the mirror as fallen, as the mirror to reflect back to them, which they need to gather so they can assemble themselves and lift themselves up through the teachings that come through Father. That is
so
freaking amazing.
Let's take a time out. Take a time out with that and go to Second Corinthians. Now let's go to 2 Corinthians 3. So they're looking into a mirror and seeing a fallen. And even today, when the Nemosa is read, there's a veil. But we all, with an unveiled face, look into here as a mirror and are taken from one degree of glory to the next, which is in the spirit. Woo!
I love that. So good. Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad that you brought that to the New Testament. I mean, I could pop over to the Aramaic and show it, but there's no need to. I don't want to get people lost in the letters. They just need to comprehend the concepts of what is being said. Because when you get a few of these pieces, all of a sudden what you've seen as a literal explanation goes so much deeper because it becomes through your spirit revealed to you and not, it bypasses this.
Right. So when the Christ is resurrected within you, the veil is torn from the top to the bottom.
That's right. So good. I'm hoping people are getting this. So now let's look at the word Eden, because I find that pretty interesting as well. Um, Thank you, Anders, for sharing your thoughts on that, because yes, it is understanding and comprehending so you can understand a concept is really important for us to be able to move out of these lower densities into our rightful inheritance. So let's go into um, I still don't know what I'm doing on this program. It makes me laugh, keeps me humble.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to go share again and we'll pop on over to the word Eden and then we'll move forward from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh my gosh, this is incredible just looking at it. Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, calm down, Gary. Settle down. I'm having my own little champagne toast here for the moment.
That's awesome.
So, the word Eden, this is incredible. So, on the inside of Eden, which is kind of funny because it leads with the bet, which is a huge, super important letter because it's the first letter of the beginning of the sacred writings of Bereshit. It was added.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this Ain Dalet comes from a word that means to adorn, to be bedecked, but it also is the same word that means witness and testimony. Witness and testimony in the center of the word for Eden. And we have the letters that I haven't highlighted here. Do you see what those are? Bet Nun.
Yep, Bet Noon.
And Bet Nun is the word for son, one who builds. So when you take a look at the masculine and feminine, everything that you just shared and we looked at with the garden,
Mm-hmm.
the masculine that was enclosed in the feminine, so amazing. It's so that because this is in the center of the word, this means so that your heart is a witness and a testimony to that which you built on the inside in your fallen flesh suit. Because you saw the purpose by going through the door on the inside, delivering yourself from your ill, weak, and feeble position. Oh my gosh, that's so incredible. And the last thing that I'm going to share is this.
In the East, yeah.
This Eastern concept is so important. If any of you guys have been listening
Mm-hmm.
to Ken's Compass teachings, the Eastern man, this is, if you guys know anything about, I'm going to pop out of here and go back to us. If any of you guys have looked at any of the Kabbalistic writings or have seen the Kabbalistic tree of life, the tree of life is called Adam Kadmon, from the same root word Kadam, which means east. But it also means the place where it's the rising of the sun. It means of antiquity, of the past, like prior to the beginning. The Eastern
The
man that
Eastern man.
rises. Yes, the
Okay.
Eastern man. And then in the fullness of Adam Kadmon, coming to the fullness of his intention, he becomes one with the Or Ein Sof, the never ending light. So the Eastern man is a huge principle. And it means Kadam is Kuf and then Dam, compressing light within the blood in the circle of time, finding the narrow path between the two of the light and the dark, going through the door of the inward man and entering into the waters above instead of the waters below. This is who is rising as the light is rising within us. This is so beautiful because as I see it, the divine feminine is helping the divine masculine rise, because the divine masculine is the marriage of the light and the dark as the light is rising, and the divine feminine is pushing it all up together so that the Christ anointing can come down in and through us by first coming up, and it's creating our toroidal field.
Well,
The field
and
within a field.
I don't know if you've ever watched any of Dan Winter's stuff, but Dan Winter is a physics guy. He combines physics and spirituality, and he would call
Love
what
it.
you just said. He would call that collapsing the wave, the waveform that is the third density expression is that the divine feminine is the gravity, the Oreta gravity, and the contrast of third density consciousness is collapsing a wave that gives birth to the Christ in us.
That is so amazing. And I can totally see that,
Oh, yeah.
because that clearing point is that heart chakra. It is that the center candle of the menorah. So think of nura, light,
Mm-hmm.
fire, flame in Aramaic. Menorah is being the light in the waters of chaos. The center of that candle, or the menorah, the center candle is called the shemesh. It's the servant candle, and it's directly connected to the heart chakra. And it's the same word for sun, and it's the same word for those who minister as priests. And just to let you guys know, in Aramaic, when they say priest, they always recognize the priestess. They don't leave it as masculine only.
No.
Same thing when they use the word king, they also it's the word queen. They see them as one. It doesn't delineate the difference in having just the masculine of a priest or the masculine of a king. It's like,
Yeah,
they are one.
And it's funny that you're saying this, because even in the Gospel of Philip, I don't think they understood what Jesus was teaching still, because when they're talking, they're bringing up Mary Magdalene because she was a priestess, his favorite, and he kissed her on the mouth because she was obviously hot. What he said, look at her, you stupid. But then he says something that doesn't make any sense unless you're in this conversation, which is, I'll make the feminine masculine. I'm here to make the feminine visible.
Oh, that's so good. That's so
And
good.
they're like, how do you make a chick a man? What are you talking about?
But you know what? In that time, though, in that linear
Oh my
thinking,
God.
it's so even take a look, how can a man be born again, right?
Yeah.
Everything is linear. It's like, okay, so we have an A to a Z here, or in the language, an aleph to the tav here, and a journey to be had between, and that does not make sense. How can you be born again? How can you make a woman a man, or a man a woman? Like, I don't comprehend this because of their linear mindset. Because kava was taken out, and we were approaching everything only from the logic side of the mind.
Yeah. And it's for this reason that you leave your mother and father and you're joined with a woman. This is a deep mystery, but I'm talking about Christ and the church.
Exactly.
Same
I know.
conversation.
And you know, that word church, by the way, it's one of these amazing things that connects to what we were just talking about Genesis 2:8. It has the word ad, which means a witness and a testimony, but then it goes from, or it has the tav aleph on it. And when you look at the word, I'm not going to pull it up right now because I just don't want to get people lost in the letters. It means those who are a witness and testimony in time that have become one. The church is not a building.
No.
It is you on your journey as a witness and a testimony in the covenant of one and becoming that, in the expression of the masculine and the divine feminine coming together, unifying, Christ anointing as the witness and the testimony from being here in time. So amazing.
It is. So, and I've really been spending a little bit of time thinking about Psalm 23? Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, is what it says in the English. But I think, again, it's a conversation about third density. And I also think it's a conversation about the divine feminine, the valley of the shadow of death. that Aubrey Marcus documentary we were talking about a minute ago.
Oh yeah,
The
man.
even though I'm walking through this dark shadow, this wilderness, um, I fear no separation.
Right.
And then later on, we have this staff that people don't understand, and a rod that people don't understand. I mean, the rod is this contrast. I think the rod is the contrast of third density. And how
Oh, I
could
can
the
see that. I can see
yeah,
that.
how could the rod of third density comfort you anywhere but in doing shadow work?
Oh my gosh, I know, right? Well, and then this is the beautiful part of that. In the sense of the language, that rod, that staff is the lamed. And when you possess the lamed, when you have become one with the lamed, you are a teaching shepherd that has the authority because you've been there, done that. Now, I am going to say through my studies, there's something that happens very rarely. Very rarely do you see the lamed on the father's side. You always see it on added to the prefix. You
Mm-hmm.
always see that as because the divine masculine, because I'll put it this way, because we've had the golden rule, it is the first way that we begin to tune in to the frequency in the broadband spectrum that we're in. Because when we separated ourselves to experience the third density, we lost the fact that we were one. So we had to be taught through Namosa the golden rule. And I always say this, man, if I'm going to punch you in the face, you're probably going to punch me right back. It's a great
Yeah.
learning tool, right? And if I
Yeah.
don't want to get punched by you, then I probably shouldn't punch you to begin with. So the golden rule had to be in place. So we have a bunch of lameds that are added to the beginning of the word. We have many people who have mastered the golden rule that have seen the progression linear of the masculine purpose through mother's teaching to build. We got buildings all over. People build stuff every day, right? And we've got the form and function here in form. Very rarely do you see it added on the suffix side. And when you see it added to a suffix side, that is a really big deal. Now, if Brandon is still on here, he would connect this to the Hopi prophecy of the two staff,
Mm-hmm.
the staff of mother and the staff of father, the masculine and the feminine that understand the material world and the unseen spiritual world that has the authority of both.
Right. So maybe when you make the feminine masculine, you become a mighty oak.
Yes, the Ayil. Yes, you become God, a
And you
strong leader, teaching shepherd that has the staff of the power that have the power within their hearts. They've had that seed. They have the vision that gave them what they needed. And yes, I totally 100% agree with
and
you there.
all authority will be given to you,
Exactly.
and that over the heavens and the earth.
That's right.
And I'll be with
It's
you
so
always.
beautiful when you see this stuff. I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would love everybody to study the language, but the language doesn't call everybody. But yet it is revealed in and through men through the heart, whether you study it or not.
Well, and the reason I started my channel was because of people like Dale Allen Hoffman and Dr. Michael Rice and others. Um, Dale says something often that's very true, is that if you don't understand the feminine teaching of Jesus, I mean, if you don't understand that that was truly the paradox of the time, a toxic masculine religious system crushing people, right? I mean, this is the part I've studied the history, and people don't understand that the temple was there and the city was there because the Romans gave them a deal and said, look, you can have your own deal as long as there's no uprisings.
Right.
As
Yeah.
long as, which is why when Yeshua comes along, Yeshua comes along teaching this feminine reality, people are getting all stirred up. Well, they get together and they're like, holy crap, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? This guy's going to ruin our deal. The Romans are going to take our deal from us. And Caiaphas says, don't worry. The death of one man will allow us to bring everything under one umbrella. And that's exactly what they did. They killed him.
Oh, yeah.
And they created what I call it's the Caiaphas prophecy. And Jesus even said it. Just as Moses raised up an idol in the desert, they're going to raise up my body on a tree and draw all men to it. They both are prophesying the same thing. And without understanding that feminine teaching upset them so badly that they
Oh, yeah.
killed him.
Oh, yeah. And anybody that had the teaching that was walking in it, they killed as well.
They killed them too.
Yeah. And
they didn't just
this
kill
is,
them. They put them on a pole and set them on fire to light the
or
streets in the gardens and stuff.
or fed them to lions.
Or that too. So once, and this is, I don't think this is a coincidence, that once the leaders of the way and the followers of the way were done away with, that magically this Paul fella shows up and takes over. That's kind of coinky dinky. And that he does so, his headquarters basically was Ephesus, from where he snatched up John, put him on Patmos, and then had a bonfire in the middle of Ephesus supposedly with all of John's writings. I personally believe that they weren't all of John's writings. I think he redid John's writings, and that's what we have as a lot of the New Testament. But that's a podcast for another day.
I know, and we're probably going to need to talk about that because there are many that believe that John's writings were actually of Mary Magdalene.
Yes. Or together, because
yeah.
Jesus told him, and the reason he was in Ephesus is because he was taking care of Mary and Mary. They all lived together.
They did. Absolutely.
Paul shows up. John's on Patmos. He has a bonfire with all these heretical writings. I don't know.
Well, and I find it, one of the things I find really amazing in my searching out, Paul, when you take a look at what was written in English, can be very confusing. And it appears that there's lots of contradictions. But what I find fascinating when you look at whoever wrote those, because of the code within Aramaic, aka Hebrew as well, it is some of the most amazing, beautiful writings I have ever had my eyes upon that have stirred my heart in such a way that sometimes even trying to bring them, like for me to try to interpret them and to bring forth the meaning to people, I'm like, this is why, again, we're talking about being lost in translation, is that some of these deep, deep concepts, the heart knows. And you really lose a lot trying to shift it over into English because English doesn't have these deep concepts. It just doesn't. It's diminished. And it's all like, here, heart-centered.
Yeah, and I like to compare it to, like what archaeologists do, because you may have this priceless artifact that's been painted, basically. And the archaeologists would painstakingly remove the false exterior to unveil the priceless artifact behind it. And that's really what we're trying to do here.
Exactly.
It's like, we can impugn whoever painted it all we want. It really doesn't matter why they did it, what kind of paint they used, why everybody bowed and worshiped at an artifact when it wasn't really the real thing. None of that really matters if you have the ability to scrape off the paint and see what's behind it. And that's why I agree with you. I think that this is most of the New Testament is John and Mary's writings from Ephesus repackaged by whomever did it for a specific purpose, Caiaphas Prophecy. And I think what we have in Abrahamic religion is proof that is proof. You know, we have just in Christianity, I call it Paulianity now, we have most Christians follow Paul. And if you try to teach the feminine teachings of Jesus, you get people ripping their shirts and, you know,
I know.
screaming raka at you.
But again, when you see those writings in Aramaic, you see the feminine all over it. So I look at it as this has been one of the greatest conspiracies against humanity to have altered, like you said, and it really rocked me before, taken an Aramaic love story and turning it into a Greek tragedy, because all of those writings, and this is what I love, you take these writings through the Aramaic, through the letters, they can alter them and change them all they want into English and make it say whatever they want.
Yeah.
But the letters and the information is still there. And I will have to, I need to share with you something that so blessed me. So between you and Daryl Shelton within 2 days helped me tremendously. And I'm probably going to get a little emotional here. Imagine that. Me emotional, really? Tears, really? One of my biggest hurdles that I've had, that I've imposed upon myself, okay? Let's point it where it's at.
Yeah.
Is that I don't read the Hebrew and the Aramaic. I can't read it. I mean, of course I can see words, but I can't read it. And I can't even speak it, although I know some words. And for some people who don't know that about me or my husband might be shocked. I mean, Ken and I try to work on our vocabulary and we're fumbling like kindergartners and first graders. And I have self-imposed upon me that I need to be able to read it and I need to be able to speak it. And it's been something that has hindered me. It is something that I look at and I struggle with. But between the two of you, within the exact same week, said essentially the exact same thing, whether you two were talking or not, or the Spirit put it upon both of you to explain how the original writings were meant to be studied. That there were no vowel points, there were no punctuation marks, it was a string of letters as a code that you would read and study letter by letter. So between the video you sent me, a video that Daryl sent me, an email that Daryl sent me, because I had been putting it out there in the frequency that this was something that was a desire of my heart to be able to speak it, especially for the toning. But then I listened to something about Dale Allen Hoffman saying that toning is more about the vowels. It's not the consonants. It's the vowels that you tone and you feel the frequency of. So thank you for that, because the way that Ken and I were shown by Spirit to study and the way we present is the way that it was originally taught and presented. And so we are just going back the way it was in antiquity, Cadmon, to do it letter by letter, word by word, in a matter of exegesis to bring these teachings forward. It was very comforting. So thank you for that. I really, really deeply appreciate that. Both you and Daryl.
Well, that's, and Daryl would probably tell you whatever the reason for that is probably above both of our pay grades, which is fine. And, you know, just as an example, the word tuveun in Aramaic, for whatever reason, it's like my favorite word. I don't even know why it's my favorite word. It's my favorite word, tuveun. I know that it means basically divinely in tuned. It's been translated to be blessed in English. I mean, just think about that. The difference between the word blessed are those and those that are divinely in tuned. I mean, just think of that word. It literally means fully present in the eternal present moment and divinely in tune. Like I'm a musician. And so if I'm a tuning fork, it's the tuning fork of the one and only being, Allah. That's what the word Tuveun means. So if you read the Sermon on the Mount and you everywhere where it says blessed, if you say to yourself, oh, those that are divinely intuned are these people. And then go about, you don't have to know all the Aramaic words, but just go about what humility really means, what meekness really means, what all the, what a peacemaker really is. Oh my gosh, which I'm sure we will do in the future with Lost in Translation. But just that one, just meditating on one word. I do it still today after years. Think about the eternal present moment and being divinely in tune. And if your tuning fork is vibrating the frequency of Alaha, Oreta, love, guess what's going to come into your life? Other tuning forks that vibrate that same frequency.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
Exactly. And I just pulled up because I wanted to see the spelling of Tovehun, because you know me, I'm a letter geek, I'm a word geek. I just gotta do it. It's just like I gotta do it.
Do it.
The blessedness comes from the word that we know in Hebrew is good, and good tov.
Good vibrations.
I know it's and this always really baffled me until I began doing my shadow work, because good starts with the letter tet. It's a letter that means to wrestle. Tet vav bet. You're going to wrestle because it's meant to expand your heart on the inside. Because the tav can be spelled as tet yod tet and then tet yod tav, which means as tet yod tet, it means you're wrestling with mother and father. And they're trying to get you to plant the seed of life on the inside. You're going to have to wrestle with both of them. There's no way around it. But once you go through the wrestling process and you complete it because you found the power within, then you're given the mark of the covenant. You have completed it. You have become that which you were wrestling because you stopped trying to resist it. And you allowed it to connect here. So you allowed it to connect to your heart on the inside. So that's the beginning of that beautiful word of Tovehun. And then the last three letters is a word that literally means to dare to venture. It also means wealth and riches. And it's on the divine feminine side.
Mm-hmm.
That is so amazing. For those who dare to go in the darkness, they are going to find the wealth and riches of their glory, their own personal glory, as revealed through the divine feminine. But the masculine portion of Tov, because that's a Hebrew word, you are going to be wrestling this. The masculine portion is going to be wrestling this. But those who are willing to venture in, to dare to take that darkness challenge, they are going to be blessed. That is so incredible. And I can see that's why one of your favorite words, because it's like, it's the message. It's like the gospel message right in one word. And it embraces the masculine and the feminine both. And yes, Daryl said, yep. Well, we just said, Daryl just said, Tovehun is only accomplished when shlama, peace, is reached between the masculine and the feminine.
And you become a mighty oak and get your staff of authority.
So can I show you something?
Yeah.
I love this. I love how it just goes here. So I'm gonna do a screen share again because I got to show you this, because what you just said is in one of the Beatitudes that we were just talking about. So let me show it to you, and then we can probably land the plane here. I know you and I could talk for hours.
Yeah.
It's easy to do. Okay, let's get into one of here. So what we were just talking about, Tovehun. Oh, how interesting. I missed a letter. It's the word good, the masculine, And it has
Right.
the yod between the masculine and the feminine portion. Of course it is. It's the vision of the power that connects both of them. And the yod is a hand, an outstretched hand that is waiting for to connect. It's like, I'm giving this to you. So the masculine is saying, I am giving this to you to empower you so that you can be blessed. Because in reality, out of this density, masculine and feminine are one.
Yes.
It's only in this density that they're separated. Now look at
So
this.
what's the gate to fourth density?
Exactly. Right at the heart chakra, man. So here's that word that we were talking about. It's blessed are they. And the they would be a standing lamed, but look at what is right in the middle.
Oh.
Here's your mighty oak right there.
Yep.
Right there. The mighty oak, the pilasters. By the way, I should have said that too. It's a word that means pilaster, and pilaster is an idiom for priest and priestess. Those who have the staff of authority, that teach the way of one, that have the power within their heart. And this shows that they have two staffs here. They have both staffs, and they have the power of the divine feminine as well while they're in their fallen flesh suit. That's who this is talking about. The mighty oak trees, the pilasters, the strong leaders, while they are here in their lower density flesh.
And there
That's
you
so
have
incredible. Right there. Ties everything into a beautiful little package.
Nice and neat. Everybody go watch Aubrey Marcus's documentary. So
Yeah.
you can really meditate, marinate in this portal, this darkness portal to feminine.
Yeah, exactly. And it's only the ego that is afraid of it.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the unification that renders the ego as being the servant and not the master.
Yep.
So it's the ego that's going to fight it tooth and nail. But our soul spirit is saying yes and amen.
Yeah. So is ego and unbridled and unbalanced masculine entity.
Yeah. That's why I refer to it as the beast ego, because it has done so much damage. And I really like it. And I want to end the plane on this, is that when you were talking with Brandon and you were discussing about the past causing the depression, which is a toxic relationship with the divine masculine, and that the anxiety comes from the future with a toxic relationship with the divine feminine, and why we are to live in the now space and loving everything as it is and not looking anywhere than where we're at right here.
Yep. And I truly believe the door to the now space is darkness.
Yes.
I mean, you can't, there is no other, that's the gate, that's the way.
Yep.
That's why few will find it.
And you know what? The heart does not have eyes.
Uh-uh.
It resides in the darkness within us.
Yeah.
It doesn't see any external narratives. It only feels it. And so therefore, the darkness, the only reason why we're afraid to go in there is because that's where all the pain and suffering is, because we've locked it up. My friend Linda says is like we wear it like a badge of honor, and we say it's holy, right? This is holy. You don't know what I've got going on here. This is my sacred space, and I'm not going to let anyone in it, let alone myself, right? I have totally enclosed it. So when we go back to the garden, Gan Eden, we're talking about right here.
Yeah.
It was never a physical place, although it may have transferred out to a physical place. I'm not going to say that there wasn't a place that they lived, but I'm saying let's stop the literal interpretation of it and go to the heart of the matter, said intentionally.
Yep. Amen. Amen. Shalom.
So, for those of you guys, if you're thinking about it, Steve and I have been discussing that we want to do this as a weekly podcast to be able to talk about what the Spirit's bringing forth and looking and calling this series Lost in Translation. So, for those of you who didn't hear me to discuss it at the beginning, if this is something that you would like to see, please let us know. Put it in the comments, either right now on the live stream or put it in the comment section after we are done. Because we see the need of this, and our heart is to bring these things to the forefront so that we can change our minds to then have heart brain coherence, um, so that we can create a better future for us in living in the now space of our heart. So, and the
And just
sacred
quickly, Anders, you're right. And just real quickly, that the ego in its essence isn't good or bad. It's simply the operating system for so you can have this experience in whatever consciousness you're in. What makes ego unbalanced was the removal or separation of the divine feminine,
absolutely,
which left an unbridled masculine operating system, which was the intention, which causes us to choose service to self or service to others. But
exactly. It's all a catalyst, right? Yep. It's all a catalyst, because without having that, without having the pain and suffering, we wouldn't be seeking for the resolve.
Nope.
And that is why when you guys decide to start, the Gospel Rangers going into the Gnostic Rangers, start talking about some of the Gnosticism texts, about the importance of what happened, why it happened, where we are at, and why there was a way made for us out. In fact, all those stories about why the language was given, now when you can see it, it makes so much more sense why my heart was drawn to the languages. In fact, I'm gonna add one more thing here. Of course, we could keep going on, but something that I didn't realize, that the Gnostic text discusses, that there's 3 types of mankind here. There are those that are, what do they call them? The pneumatics, the ones that are of spirit, that, the pneumatics. And then there's another one that is, and I don't remember the names of them. I just remember the pneumatic, because I was like, well, of course, that's connected to Greek. I get it. But the other 2, one is the lowest form, is one that is in beastly nature, that is totally carnal, that has nothing to do with anything spiritual. I would say they are living in all their lower chakras.
They are, and I actually call them non-player characters in games.
And that's what I was just gonna say. So good. They are the NPCs.
Yeah.
Yes. And their energy.
Like Roman says.
Go ahead.
Roman says, who are you to tell God who's an NPC and who's pneumatic? What vessel is for glory and what vessel is for destruction? It's all part of the deal.
One is for glory, one is for honor, and one is dishonor. Yep, totally get it.
One's catalyst.
Yep. And here was the point, and this is what I want to land the plane on, because this is what I've been really, really, really contemplating. I've been contemplating about the middle group, because it says the middle group are of the material realm, but they are given a choice. So the purpose of the pneumatics is to become the way, Oreka, in order to present the way to those who are in the middle, who get to make a choice between following that which is going to keep them in the material realm, or choosing to turn and go through the spiritual elevation. But it's going to take those who are the pneumatics to assist those who are in the middle ground. And I'm super excited about that, because I have seen for many years the difference between the barley bride and the wheat bride, the first of the first fruits versus the first fruits. The first of the first fruits are winnowed through the spirit, air, pneuma. They're the ones that have come to this spiritual awakening as the first of the first fruits. So then when the tribulation period time is, they assist the barley bride in those that are stuck in that transitory period of, am I going to choose the way of spirit, or am I going to stay in the way of flesh, and then be dropped down to where the beast realm is, that are slated for destruction. And when it's destruction, it just means their energy returns back to source. Doesn't mean eternal damnation, suffering. It just means their energy is transmuted into something else. There is no pain and suffering outside of third density. This
No,
is
and
it, folks.
they'll just incarnate in third density somewhere else because Earth is fourth density now. So
Exactly. Exactly. That was a huge piece. That was a huge piece for me because it just confirmed something that my husband and I have been talking about for years. And
hmm
again, why I believe that we are here sharing these things and talking the way we are. And I'm not claiming that I'm a pneumatic, okay? I'm not claiming
you
anything.
are you're a wanderer just like me.
Well, I'm a wanderer, yes, but
What
I
we
don't
do.
want I don't want my ego to get in the way. All I know is that my heart is wanting to share things of the heart to those who want to connect at the heart level and not the head level. And that's why I share. I
Well, and
don't need
before I
it
get
for
off
any
of
other
here, because
reason than that.
my iPad's fixing to die, but it's why you know you're a wanderer if Aramaic vibrates within you, like literally,
Absolutely.
you just sit around all day thinking about words like Tuveyud and Ruka and Malkuta and stuff like that. It's because you're a wanderer. It's your language. The vibration is your native language. So just don't go crazy thinking you have to speak Aramaic. Just find some words, meditate on them, and
That's right.
Mama will lead the way.
That's exactly right. There is much to be said out there, and we will assist as best we can. Just to let you know, and I know Steve that you know this. This is what I've used as my go-to. Janet Magiera's work.
Mhm.
She has incredible information on the Aramaic language. She's compiled a lot. But it is important if you're going to study it that you know at least the meanings of the letters as well. Because if you don't know the meanings of the letters, you miss out on a lot.
Hey,
So
in the description of this video, can you put the link to the website that you use as well?
the Peshitta, yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, the Peshitta also in there, and this was something that I didn't know. I was like totally blown away. It has the Kubric Codex in there as well.
Oh, it's in there too. Cool.
Yes, it is. There is some amazing tools in it. So yes, in the description box, it has the it's the web page is called dugrana.com, and it has, and I have it in there in the description box so people can go and
Okay,
look at
cool.
it. That's what I've been screen sharing from, by the way, with the New Testament. That's what I've been using. So,
Very
and I
good.
do have a video that I put out on my YouTube channel, the YouTube channel that it shows how to navigate a little bit on the Peshitta. And then I have one that I'm going to be coming out about how I make my little cheat sheets through Word to be able to take that information and work it so that I can put all my exegesis work on it. And I will be releasing that probably within a day or two for anybody who wants to start venturing in. And
Yeah.
so that will help. And I know that my heart is that I am offering tutoring to people. So if you want to get started in doing some of this, hit me up. And I am thinking about doing a live online class starting at the beginning of the year for people who want to dive in and want to do it in a classroom setting. So that is kind of what I've got on there. But until then, I know that Steve and I will be doing these weekly conversations. We will figure out what day and time that we will just set so people can set it as their normal alarm clock. This time seems to work well for me, 7 a.m. on the Pacific Coast and 10 for you. Hopefully, it's a good
It,
time for you as well.
it
And
is, and I look forward to the community that I know is going to gather. That's what I mean.
me
I
too.
just literally am busting at the seams now because I know what's. I mean, it's time. So
It is time. It is time. So thank you guys for joining us today. And we look forward to our weekly chats with you. Thank you. If for some reason I'm not seeing my Facebook post, so I don't know what anybody has said on Facebook. I've only seen people that are on YouTube. So
hopefully
to
it's
go
all
back and
good.
check that out. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, we love you guys very much. Shalama shalom. And I think Daryl, what is it? It's help us, Daryl. Shalama alakun. Alakun, did I say it right? Shalama alakun. Hopefully
I
I
think
did.
you're right.
Okay. He's trying to teach me. Like I said, I study it. I don't know how to speak it very well. But shalama alakun to all of you until we gather again next week. Steve, thank you for your time. Thank you
Thank you.
for spending and sharing your heart with us here. I always learn so much from you, and I just love the synergy of what happens when we get to come together. It's just magic. It's
Well, I
just
told
magic.
you, I've known this is coming for a long time. So
Well, I'm
It's,
glad the time is here and now. And before you go, somebody did ask again about the documentary.
you know, I mean, I don't have it. I mean, we can put it in the link. I mean, I'll find it and send it to you, and you can put it
Yeah,
below.
we'll put it in the description box. So those of you that need to find it, you can see it down in the comment section after this video is posted. So
Watch it and experience Tuveyun.
exactly. That's a great way to land the plane, Steve. Awesome. All right. I love you, brother, my
Peace
friend and
out. I love you
comrade.
too.
And I will be chatting with you later this week, and we'll see you again in next week on another live stream. Shalom, shalom, everyone.